Dr. Stephen Ruden.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm trying to think how long it's been since... Can you hear me now?
I can hear you perfectly.
Oh, that's perfect. I was trying to think how long it's been since we had one of our discussions, and it must have been 5 years.
Easily.
Because I trained with Ron in Havening, and believe it or not, I've got it over here because I've got my certificate here. As you see there. And that was May 2013.
You were one of the first ones, I know.
I was a virgin.
Yeah. An early adopter.
That's funny. So, thank you very much for joining us, and I want you to talk about Havening. I want you to let people know about Havening. My reasoning for pulling some people together right now is that our world is in lockdown, and I'm wondering what's going on in New York, but I'm also would like to hear what your views are on life after lockdown. How do you see us functioning? You know, business. Do you think that things are going to return to normal or not? But we'll explore that. But firstly, tell us what you've been doing for the last decade in research and havening and trauma and all the good stuff you've been doing. Tell us a bit about that.
It's been a very exciting few years. As you know, when you attended that conference, there may have been 10 people there. Would you tell everybody, tell people to mute? Can you tell everybody to mute?
Okay.
Everybody should mute their things.
Well, it's just you and I, so.
Oh, okay.
So.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah. It's been a very exciting 8 years where we started off with this very small group, and people took it up and they just expanded it until now. We really are covering the globe with practitioners and trainers and international conferences and people really doing amazing things. People really doing amazing things. I'm going to take this off and pull this out.
I keep in touch with Tony Burgess, and my mother lives in Spain, and she's only like 5 minutes from Tony. So when I'm over visiting my mum, I go for a run in the mornings with Tony. So he keeps me up to date. He says he doesn't speak to you as much as he'd like to, time difference and everything like that, but he tells me the great things that's being done.
Yes, we just launched a program that we're in a beta trial for the first responders and the healthcare workers to help them self-haven from their trauma.
Okay.
So that'll probably be available once we get some beta testing and see what we find out, how it works and things like that. So that's a very exciting part of what we're up to right now.
Give us a brief about what havening is, because I know what it is, you know what it is, but a lot of people listening may not. So you've developed a model of healing, of therapy, which differs from regular talk therapy. It can be implemented. It's very adaptable, and it can be used in both coaching, hypnotherapy. It can be used in therapy. Now, I know that, but the listeners don't. So tell us a little bit about what you come up with.
Well, let me we'll just describe what havening is for people who don't know what it is. So currently uh, there are many modalities in which people can be helped moving forward in their life.
Sure.
The two main ones are psychotherapy and psychopharmacology. These have been pretty consistently over the last 50 years, even almost 100 years, the two main aspects of how people uh, get better. But
Sure.
we've now introduced a new approach called psychosensory therapy. And that's the use of sensory input, non-specific sensory input, to use that as a change agent to create change within the individual. And our change agent in our case is touch. So we've developed protocols that we have found very, very helpful and developed consistent results. And we're able to easily train people, not only to teach it to other people, but also to allow them to self-care. And in this day and age where self-care is probably the most important aspect, because I believe everyone is traumatized to some degree because of what's happening. And you were discussing lockdown. The truth of the matter is not only we physically locked down, but we're emotionally locked down.
Absolutely.
So our component, our havening component, really relates to how we can mitigate the emotional lockdown that we're experiencing. So when we watch television, for example, and we see people in weddings and parties and getting together, we get frightened because our consciousness has been shifted from something that was once something very joyful now to something that is very threatening. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that going to a grocery store would create stress in people?
Absolutely.
Who would think that going to a concert or having a dinner party or going to a restaurant now produces a sense of threat in people? And I believe that once the physical lockdown is left, I think that we're going to see the emotional component really take its toll.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I spoke with a colleague this morning, Lucy Cavendish, and I said, personally, I see there's two pandemics going on right now. The one we're talking about, which is COVID-19, but the secondary one that's distant in the background is anxiety. The level of anxiety that's been created through this COVID-19, very few people are discussing. And I'm just wondering what that's going to be like when that's unleashed after the COVID-19 lockdown's been, the gates have come down a little bit and that, but what happens to the anxiety? What happens to the newfound way that we became habitualized in, which is social isolation, which is social distancing, which is, and so on. It's massively complex. And I don't know if anyone out there's actually got a blueprint of how we're going to navigate the world after lockdown.
Well, I'll try to give a little geeky thinking about this.
Well, please do.
From a havening standpoint. So, generally speaking, our systems, both our mind and our body, are constantly trying to create and be within what we call homeostasis. That means where there's very little stress and strain on our underlying systems, our autonomic systems are working comfortably, our mind is not sensing threat all the time, we're able to engage in many ways. But this COVID-19 has added an additional stressor to our general sense of being. And this stressor is chronic now. We had an acute phase, and now we've gone into a chronic phase. So at the end of the day, we're actually in what I call a neostasis, a new
Neostasis.
a new state,
Okay.
and this state places an enormous amount of uh, energy for us to manage. And that energy, that there's a term for that amount of energy, it's called allostatic load. How much energy is our systems requiring to maintain or return us to our homeostatic place, our center? And the issues with these things are that we're not conscious of this load, other than that we're feeling altered. I can tell you for myself that when this began, we all were very altered, and now we're adapting to this alteration.
Of course.
But we're really not. So everything
we think we are.
We think, well, everything that's happening, we're not conscious anymore of the alterations that are beginning to happen. We can't, everything becomes a threat because we can't socialize. We can't go out. As I said before, we can't just, who would think that we would have to wipe down our groceries when we bring them in? Who would think that and social isolation is really antithetical to our species because we're a herding species.
Of course.
So I can tell you from personal experience, many of people, my concluded, is terribly missing her grandchildren, and this is causing her distress, which is therefore increasing all kinds of stress chemicals. The cortisol, the norepinephrine, the adrenaline are just coursing through our systems, and these drug hormones and catecholamines are placing enormous stresses on our systems, and they will have serious consequences down the road.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If it's not managed appropriately right now, it's going to show up.
It's interesting, and maybe you can give me some insight from your experience. When we first started self-isolating, when we first became aware of the COVID, we were all very anxious, and now we've reached a chronic state which feels very different. We move through our lives, but we're wearing a raincoat, so to speak, of this, and everything. Who would think that you have to worry where you're going to place your hands? Who would have to think any of these things? And every time we enter into our grocery store, up goes our fight and flight chemicals. Every time we can't see our grand for things that we cannot control.
Yeah.
So we look at it. I look at it this way. So we are moving into more vulnerable state as this continues, and when you look. And so we will need strategies. So we'll need strategies to stressors, EU stressors, and those are positive stressors that help having something important, that people learn to distract themselves from the current situation, to give their mind rest, to allow the onslaught of what we're experiencing.
Isn't it also as well that when we start to become habituated in that stress response, it's almost like we start to become addicted to it. It's so constrictive, and how we start to construe our world becomes very, very small. So, as you're saying, how do we look at effectively providing care for individuals that have suffered this in order to allow them to the reintegration process back into society after COVID-19?
Right. What?
Stephen, is your internet? I'm just checking my download speed. My download speed seems to be okay.
Yeah, I have.
I'm checking my download speed. My download speed seems to be okay here.
To downregulate.
I'm guessing there's a lot of people online in New York City right now.
There we go. You're back.
How's that?
Yeah, better. So, as I said before, I think one of the to Ross.
Signal's going.
I know. I see that. I see that. I think there certain strategies would be helpful. Don't watch the news 24/7.
Absolutely.
Do something that you like doing. You know, the spring is coming. Go garden. Go do things that you could do in your, if you can. If you're not in an apartment, you can go garden a little bit.
Can you hear me? Hello?
These are the things that will help downregulate the stress response. That's the secret here. Because as the stress response continues, we become more Ross, what? Ross?
Yeah, I can hear you, but the signal just keeps my broadband speed's pretty good. I'm wondering if your broadband, lots of people in New York signing in right now at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Hi, Ross.
Hi.
We're in and out a lot. Can you hear me when I'm speaking, or?
No, you're just freezing.
All right.
What do you think of life after lockdown? What do you think the world's going to look like?
I could tell you, for example, being a dentist in my world, vector. When I go back and do my work, the aerosol is all out. So I think that the answer is we only have two options here to go back to normal. That is the development of an Hi, Ross.
Right. When you say go back to normal, how do you think things can go back to normal?
No, there'll be a new normal. Just
a new normal.
Yeah, a new state. Just like it was just like the new state that occurred after 9/11 or after the AIDS epidemic. All of these things created significant societal shifts, and this will create a significant societal.
Stephen, people are messaging in and saying that my site seems to be working all right, but your site seems to be freezing.
Hey, Ross.
I've just noticed, Steve, that people are sending in messages and saying that my site on Facebook Live is working. It seems to be your site that's freezing. Have you got a lot of programs running or anything in the background that we could drop?
Let me just take a look.
Because we're getting lots of good feedback. People are enjoying what they're hearing. Working all right, but your site seems to be freezing. There you go.
I dropped.
Now we got a bit of feedback. That's okay. We're experimenting. You're getting a bit of feedback now.
Yeah, I'm getting feedback.
How's that? I thought you would have been super fast fiber in New York.
I think there's just so. I just think everybody's on the internet these days.
Yeah.
The band. All right.
There you go. My buddy just texted me and says, keep rolling your side. Oh, what am I going to roll about? What, do I roll around? Right. Completely frozen. we've done well. We're trying. We're experimenting with new things. It's never going to work straight off. I'm just logging in to Facebook here and see if it's went live. Yeah, it's went live. You're frozen. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you perfectly now. Nope, you're away again. We've lost you again, Dr. Ruden. So Dr. Ruden, Dr. Ronald Ruden and Dr. Stephen Ruden, Dr. Ronald Ruden and Dr. Stephen Ruden created a healing model, a psychosensory model of healing called havening, amygdala depotentiation technique. Stephen's brother Ronald has wrote many books. The first book I read of Ronald's was called The Craving Brain. I read that in 2000 while I was on a bus from Bondi Beach down to Sydney. There we go, Steve, are you back? No, he's not back. And when I read the book in 2000, the Craving Brain, it was called, I followed Dr. Ronald Ruden's work. And after that, I kept in touch with him. He wrote a fantastic book, which was called Past is Always Present. And then they took the healing modality of havening and it's went global. And it's a new approach. It's a psychosensory approach. It's a way of dealing with trauma. Are you back, Steve? No? It's like I brought on a guest and I'm doing all the talking. He's gone. Well, we tried. This is new. I'm not losing my cool. I don't know if he's going to try and call back in or not, but let me see. Too many bored people in lockdown sucking up the internet. Yeah, I guess so. Are you going? Let me just ask him if he's going. Are you going? Whatever. Are you going? Done. I'll keep it rolling for a couple of minutes. James Blackwood, shut it down and start again. It usually works well. James, that's what they're trying to do with the planet, and I don't know if that approach is working. Just hit the reset button. But I'll wait and see if I'll give him a couple of seconds to see if he comes back. Are you going? Done? Are you finished? I'm still rolling. I'm still rolling this end. Now that would have a very different connotation years ago, rolling this end. Maybe it is going. So Dr. Ronald Ruden and Stephen Ruden, they've been working together, co-founders of havening techniques, and if you're interested in looking at other approaches to dealing with and healing trauma, I would highly recommend it. He is texting me back. We'll try to log on again. He's going to try and log on again. I'll just keep talking. And he's we'll try and log on again. He's going to keep coming. So there we go. He's popping back in. Showing screen. 3, 2, 1. Nope, he's not there. He's trying though. Steve? Got no video now. How's your Saturday afternoon going? I'm having a great day. I went out and ran this morning and I did 8 miles. It's about 12k and I'm feeling fantastic. I'm all stoked up and ready for my Saturday night, which will be sitting in the house watching Netflix for change and thinking about how traumatised I am about meeting the external world when we get out of lockdown and how we're going to reintegrate back into society and reintegrate back into connecting with family and friends. And, we'll try and log on again. Try one last time. Probably lost a load of people. They probably all disappeared thinking of us amateurs at this end. Got 11 people still watching. You're doing well. I'm just blethering away. Thank you. Hi. Who said hello? Frank. Social isolation, massively negative dimension, byproduct of COVID-19 feeding into the lives of the elderly especially. Absolutely. And we know that isolation is Beth sent me a message. Beth said nothing should go back to normal. Normal wasn't working. If we do go back to the way things were, we will have lost the lesson. Maybe we rise up and do better. Absolutely, Beth. I would agree with that 100%. And getting attached to any of it before, or rather the lockdown trap. I don't think Dr. Ruden's coming back. I think we've lost him for the day. But what I'm going to end stream one. Try one last time. You able? Who would have thought New York internet was worse than Central Belt Scotland? 32 minutes and 25 seconds in. I'm still remaining calm-ish. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we've lost that. I think we've completely lost Dr. Ruden somewhere in hyperspace and technology, but I hope what he did say resonated with some of the people that are listening. And have a great Saturday afternoon. Thanks for watching.